Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be introducing a really good advertising strategy for those of you who are brand new to KDP ads. You maybe don't have too much money to invest in advertising, or you don't want to risk too much of that money in your ads, or also don't really know too much about the actual Amazon advertising console itself, don't know too much about metrics, and just generally don't have that Amazon ads knowledge base and just want to start somewhere that's really simple, really hands off, and is very low risk for you. And lottery campaigns are a great place to start there. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly what a lottery campaign is, how you can set one up, and also show you through my lottery campaign to give you a bit more of an idea of why they can be successful and kind of what they look like. So lottery campaigns are basically just generic auto ads, but rather than having an individual auto ad for each book, all of your books are going to be set in the same ad and then tested at the same time by Amazon. So it kind of look a bit like this. If this is a little bit too advanced for you, don't worry too much about this, but I'm just going to show you a bit more of a visual way of kind of how this looks. So rather than having just an ad campaign and an ad set and then one book within that campaign and ad set, lots of your books are going to be in this specific ad set. The more books you have, the more information Amazon has to work and test against its algorithm. So essentially all you're doing is putting as many of your books as possible, or as you like, into one campaign with a really low bid to try and see as many, to try and get as many impressions, clicks, and hopefully sales as you possibly can. So you have to remember that auto ads are almost entirely run by Amazon's algorithm. So this is literally just one ad you have to set up. You don't have to do any more ads apart from this one. And Amazon will essentially just run it themselves using their entire algorithm. So this is why it's a really hands-off and a good place to start if you are a beginner to ads. And kind of the goal of a lottery campaign is to get as many cheap impressions and clicks for your books as you possibly can. For those of you who don't know what impressions are, they're just essentially views of your ad. So the idea of a lottery campaign is two things. It's to be as automated as possible, and it's to be as cheap as possible. And this is why it's a really good place to start for beginners, because all you have to do is set it up once. It's super easy to set up, and once that's done, it's done forever. And then it's also really cheap because you're going to have really, really low bids and hopefully achieve a really low ACOS with this ad as well. So you're going to kind of have to visualize it as casting a really wide net out. So rather than kind of fishing individually as you would with normal campaigns, where you kind of have one campaign for each, having individual kind of rods to catch fish, you're just casting a really wide net out and putting all of your books in there and just kind of seeing what comes back in terms of your results. So that's kind of how I would describe in kind of a real world scenario, kind of what this lottery campaign is doing, and kind of how simple it is, and kind of an all-in-one approach rather than specifically targeting, which is a little bit more advanced for Amazon ads. So I'm going to jump over now into the Amazon ads console and show you exactly how you can set up your lottery campaigns. So I'm in the Amazon advertising console, so I'm going to show you how you can set up your lottery campaign now from scratch. So you want to go into the sponsored product section as you would do with most of your Amazon KDP ads. In terms of the ad group name, because every single one of your books is going to be going into the same ad group, I would kind of just leave it as it is, or you can just call it lottery ad group. It doesn't really matter too much in this case. You can come down to the product section in here, and I'm going to blur out some of these because these are my books, but essentially what you want to do is add as many of your books as you want that you want to kind of advertise in the lottery campaign. Just a piece of advice: if you're kind of selling notebooks, kind of no content books, I would kind of stay away from advertising on those, because in my personal experience, I actually haven't had much success from advertising no content books. But if you are doing kind of low content book stuff, this has been really successful for me with my low content books. So maybe this is something you should do if you have low content books rather than no content. So essentially put in as many of your low content books as you want to advertise as possible by just clicking this add button here and just adding as many of them as you can. In terms of then targeting, what you want to do is go for automatic targeting, because this is going to be an auto ad, and then set your default bid super low. So again, as I mentioned previously, the idea of a lottery campaign is to cast that wide net out with a really low default bid and kind of get as many kind of impressions, clicks, sales for as cheaply as possible. So I'm going to go for a default bid of around 8 pence. So whatever that converts to in your currency, it's kind of a good start. One thing worth noting is I'd always go lower than you kind of think you might have to go, because you can always increase the bid over time if you're not reaching many customers. So I would start with an 8 pence bid, or kind of what that is in your currency. I wouldn't worry too much about the negative keyword targeting or the negative product targeting. I would just leave those as they are. And then in terms of the dynamic bidding strategy, what I would do is I would adjust my bids by placement. So I'd go for the down only strategy. So essentially what this means is for a default bid of 8 pence, it means you're never ever going to bid more than 8 pence, strictly speaking, by using a down only bidding strategy. So that's kind of how that works. But what we're actually going to do is we actually are in reality going to be spending more than 8 pence, because we're going to be changing this bid adjustment. So all you want to do is just put 100% into both of these, and what this basically means is it will just change your default bid by up to 100% to be on these kind of different placements of the product. So essentially, if you want to be your product to be advertised at the top of the page, we give it a 100% increase in the bidding strategy, which basically means we're happy to spend 16p on our bid to be top of the search page, and then the same for the product pages. Then as time goes by, as your kind of advertising campaign and your lottery campaign gets a bit of data, you can kind of see if these are successful. And then if you're spending too much money for each of these placements, you can then bring them down to kind of whatever number you want to. But I always say 100% is a good place to start. So essentially, we're putting an 8p as a default bid, but basically what we're saying is bid 8p unless you're getting into the top of the search page or the product page, in which case we're allowed to bid 100% more than our default bid, which is now 16p. So that's how you set up the bidding strategy for your lottery campaign. I then just call this lottery, and I call it with a dash, and then just say down only, which is the bidding strategy, and then go for 100% placement, because that's kind of explaining what our campaign is doing. So 100 placement. So basically what we're saying is it's a lottery campaign, we're using the down only bidding strategy, and we're using the 100% on our product placement. Set the daily budget of £5, or it kind of depends on how many books you have in there. Generally, a general rule of thumb for me is however many books in there is kind of every single book kind of put £1 for the budget. So if we had 20 books in our kind of campaign, I'd put a daily budget of £20, but we are going to kind of set up budget rules for this. So I'm going to show you in a second how you do that, but we'll start as a budget of £20 and basically introduce these rules to say we can spend a little bit more if the ad is profitable. So that's literally all you have to do. Put your budget in there and then just press launch campaign, and what that's going to do is launch the entire campaign for you, and then kind of just set it and forget it. And that's everything done to set up your lottery campaign. So now I'm going to jump in and show you how you can use budgets to even further optimize and maximize the success you get from your lottery campaigns. So the next thing you're going to want to do once you have actually set up your lottery campaign is go into the actual campaign itself. So this is my Lottery UK campaign, and on the left hand side there is a tab called budget rules. Click into this and then just press this add budget rule to make a new rule. I've obviously already got this one set up, so I'm just going to click into this one. And the reason why we have these budget rules is you have to cast your mind back to the whole reason why we're doing lottery campaigns. If you don't have very much money at all to spend on this, then maybe this isn't something you want to do if you don't have the money short term. But essentially what budget rules are, they allow you to put in certain rules in place based on certain metrics, and then they will increase the budget if those certain things are hit. So for this example, I call this the profit rule, and basically what I'm saying is, I'll set the budget, so my budget for this campaign is £10, but what I'm going to say is if the ACOS of this ad on a certain day is less than or equal to 20%, so 20% in the UK is my break-even ACOS when you include the VAT, 20% on top. So basically what I'm saying is if the ACOS is less than 28%, which is basically means the ad is profitable, and I've spent all of my budget, then increase my budget by 100%. So a £10 daily budget then gets turned into a £20 daily budget for this rule. So essentially what this does is basically just gives you the safety net of a budget with not spending too much money. But if your ad is performing at a really profitable rate in the certain day, it will increase that budget for you. So all you're doing is spending more money, but that money you're spending is still profitable. So it kind of depends on how well your cash flow is kind of going. If you can afford to increase your budget, then absolutely go for it with a budget rule like this. You can use other performance metrics here like click-through rate, conversion rate, or return on ad spend, but I just stick with ACOS and then stick it to less than or equal to my profit margin. So essentially this is a good way of giving yourself that safety net of not spending too much money, and also not capping yourself at how profitable and successful your ad can be, because basically all it says is if your ad is performing profitably, then increase the budget, and that's a really good thing to implement with your Amazon lottery ads. And with that said, now I'll jump into my actual lottery ad and talk you through the history of it and kind of what it's doing for me now. So here is a look into my actual lottery ad campaign itself for the UK. As you can see, I started this just under 4 months ago, or just about 4 months ago actually, and it's done really well for me so far since I've launched it. Today it spent £7.96 and it's got me £60.90 back in total, with a really profitable ACOS of 11.39%. So you can see just how successful these campaigns can be. I have to give it a bit more time to run through the rest of the day, but if I go to live time, you can see here the kind of numbers that I'm pulling in from this. So my spend is £1,345 in total, with a total sales of just under £5,500 and an ACOS of just under 25%. So considering this is an ad I literally set up once and then don't really touch apart from add the odd book every now and then, it's super easy and super efficient way of making more sales on my books and also boosting the organic rank of these books, because not only are these ads running at a profitable ACOS, they're also making more sales and therefore pushing the organic rank of these books up as well, which means you'll make even more sales that I can't even see in this dashboard. So it just goes to show how effective lottery campaigns can be here. So that's basically a summary of what lottery campaigns are and the strategy I would use if you are brand new to KDP ads and just kind of want to get yourself into the kind of KDP ad space without spending too much money, without having too much risk, and without really needing to know too much. Lottery ads are a really good place to start, and as you can see from my results, a really profitable way of just kind of boosting your books, both organic sales and your advertising sales. So if you did enjoy this video and you want to see some more KDP tips like this one, then please do subscribe to the channel and also like the video if you found anything useful, and I will see you all in the next video.